We decided to work with Dynamic Logic on this particular study because they've measured thousands of campaigns across millions of consumers. And the questions that we get asked, you'd think that there's pretty good data for. So should I run a 15 or a 30? Should I repurpose a TV spot or create something specific for the web? These type of questions, we thought that they'd have the best data to answer. So we looked at their normative data to really dive into some of these questions. So just kind of touching the tops of the trees on a few of the most commonly asked questions, I'll go through right now, but we've got data on many others, so feel free to reach out. So first, there's a lot of different ways to slice the world in terms of online video. One of the ways that you can look at it is in-banner versus in-stream. And we see pretty much across the board, in-stream video outperforms in-banner. But what's interesting is in-stream video tends to outperform pretty much any other digital media option in terms of these brand lift metrics. So this is really the basis for why online video has been growing, but this doesn't necessarily answer the question, how can you make in-stream video work best? So to answer those questions, first, most common question that we get by far is, should I run a 15 or a 30? And to answer that question, it depends on the objective of the campaign. So if you look at the upper right-hand corner of this slide, it's YuMe data. So that's our video completion rate for 15s and 30s. And we've seen this for years. You run a 15, you're going to get 10% higher completion rate. It's very predictable. But that's not in and of itself a reason to run exclusively 15s. Because you can see in the dynamic logic data that depending on the objective, 30s can work very well. And with 30s, you can also get, a 75-ish% video completion rate. So if you can get a high completion rate and drive these more attitudinal metrics more effectively with a 30, if you're trying to convey a complex message, for example, then it's something that we absolutely recommend that you do. One of the things that you can do, and we'll do a deep dive on this. We have Juan here from Dynamic Logic. We'll do a deep dive on this one. But interactivity across the board is a great thing to add, whether people interact or not. It goes without saying that if you add interactive elements, more people are going to interact. That's what's in the upper right-hand corner of the slide. And I got the question in Chicago when we were doing this, how do you have interactivity on a non-interactive unit? Well, it's a click. So that is just 0.6% click-through rate. But you get a higher percentage of the audience to interact with the elements, but even for those who don't interact, even for the 97.5% or so that aren't going to interact, you tend to get better brand lift metrics as well because it makes the ad more noticeable, it makes it pop off the screen, it just makes it feel more digitally native. And so interactive elements, visual enhancements, always a good thing to add. Frequency. So we have a lot of conversations around frequency with our clients, and most of them are related to frequency capping. And what I'd say that we saw very clearly in the data is that the problem tends to be too little frequency, not too much frequency. Now, certainly there's a point where there's too much frequency, but many advertisers don't run at breakthrough levels. If you don't run at breakthrough levels, it's almost like you're not running at all. So we really do recommend that you look at running at, depending on the brand, depending on the creative, at least 3 or more exposures per consumer. Demo targeting. This one's fairly intuitive, very simple, but it's pretty clear in the data that it works. And the reason why demo targeting is a great thing to do in online video is, I'd say 9 times out of 10, we're running a repurposed TV spot. TV creative is typically developed with a specific buying demo in mind because that's the way you buy TV. As a result, you demo target against the same audience online that the creative was designed for. Not surprisingly, better brand lift. Again, fairly intuitive, but very clear in the data. One of the smallest changes you can make, it's virtually free to do, and it can make a big difference, is just make sure that there's persistent branding in the ad when you run it in online video. Many TV spots have kind of a reveal format where you don't know who the brand is until the end of the spot. We don't recommend that for a variety of reasons in the online video space. We recommend that you just take the brand logo, maybe put it in the top right-hand corner, bottom right-hand corner, add some interactive elements that has the brand logo. Just something as small as that can really make a difference in campaign performance. And again, it's virtually a free change to make. If the most common question that we get is, should I run a 15 or a 30? The second most common by far is, should I run repurposed TV creative or make something specifically for the web? Now the reality is, to make something specific for the web, you need the budget and you need the time to do it. And for many advertisers, neither of those is a reality. However, if you do have the time and you do have the budget, made for web creative can absolutely perform well. We see one exception, where repurposed TV creative actually performs better than made for web, and that's when you're trying to align your TV schedule and your online schedule and achieve breakthrough for a specific spot. Then repurposed TV creative works quite well. But past that, if you have the time and the budget, made for web works phenomenally well. Now, again, I mentioned earlier, 9 times out of 10, about 90% of our ads that we run are repurposed TV creative. So the most important question really is, how can I optimize that repurposed TV creative? And we'll do a deep dive there. Dynamic Logic also gave us some best practices in terms of when you're cutting down a spot, say from a 30 to a 15, what you should focus on. These are fairly intuitive, but very useful, I find. So certainly keep the primary messaging. Keep anything that's highly emotional, like human presence, while cutting any mention of competitors, cutting any of the secondary messaging, any of the lead up to the punchline, the pizza guy walking to the front door, those type of frames. Certainly add static logos, add even some copy that might complement the voiceover. In the online video space, oftentimes when someone starts a video, they might have their computer at a low volume or on mute. So adding some copy that complements the voiceover for those initial frames can be very helpful. And then a strong call to action, which is just kind of a best practice in the digital space in general. So with that said, I want to invite Juan from Dynamic Logic on stage to really talk through a phase 2 to this study that we did on answering the question, okay, I've got a TV creative, I've got a repurposed TV creative, how can I make it perform best?